Okay. We'll get this nuisance review board meeting started. It's 8:30. We have a quorum. So the first item on our agenda this morning is approval of the minutes from our January 21st meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the January 21st Berne Nuisance Review Board meeting minutes as presented.
Second. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Out of respect for Kelly, I'm gonna let you talk now if you want to, so you don't have to stick around. If you want to stick around, you can, but I know you probably want to go to work at some point in time.
Do you want to or
Well, you need to. So, yeah, you can sit there.
sit next to John here? Well, to some of you, this will come as no surprise. I'm here to just share some thoughts about the part of the ordinance that addresses campers, RVs, things like that. And Ron knows, and I've shared this in city council, I had a little bit of struggle with not permitting the campers and on the street. And I looked at the definition in the ordinance of a public nuisance. And some of the part of the definition says that if it substantially will injure or endanger the comfort, health, repose, or safety of the public, I don't feel like it falls under that. In any way, render the public insecure in life or in use of property, I don't see how it falls under that. Greatly offend the public morals or decency, don't see how it falls under that. Be injurious to health, indecent or offensive to the senses, or an obstruction to the full use of property, so as essentially to interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life and property. And I don't see it falling under that. I can see how it would fall under later where it talks about obstructing the view of traffic. And I can see where it would fall under there. And I think that I would be comfortable with it if it were in that section, that they couldn't be parked in such a way to obstruct the view of traffic. Unless I'm not seeing something, I'm not seeing something correctly, I just would like your input as to what I'm not seeing.
What was the second to the last one of those that you read?
Greatly offend the public morals or decency.
No, the next one.
Be injurious to health, indecent or offensive to the senses, or an obstruction to the full use of property, so as essentially to interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property.
I mean, of all the ones, that would be the one in certain situations, depending on the circumstances, I could see where a camper or something sitting next to my property could be a negative thing. I mean, and not all, depending on what the circumstance is. I mean, I've seen situations, and Kelly, as we talked at the last meeting, I think this section of the nuisance ordinance needs to be revisited. And we need to look at what some of the other communities around are doing, because many around have things in their ordinance that's different than ours, but it's also similar to ours, that there is some control of what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. So if there's a big, and I'll use the term, it's not very official, honking, trailer parked, and it's what I'm going to look at, coming out of my front door, or, is just right there. That's not maybe what I want to look at as a homeowner. That's not what I bought my home thinking I was going to look at for the next 30 years. So that's where I think we get into a fine line of what's tasteful and what's not tasteful. And not every situation, you know, is going to go there in my mind. But again, I think, as I brought up, I think our nuisance ordinance has too many things all lumped into the same section of the ordinance.
Mhm.
You know, we got RVs, boats, storage campers, trailers, you know, everything. And they're not all the same.
Yeah.
So I would like to see the city council take a look at our ordinance,
Mhm.
take a look at other cities and craft something that maybe is a little more palatable to those who own campers. And, you know, it gives us some control if things go haywire.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of what the nuisance ordinance is in place for, is that if there's something really not tasteful, there is some opportunity to be able to address the matter.
Mhm.
So,
And Ron, I sent you and Greg a picture. Let's go back to where Jerry Sprunger grew up and where Chick lived in that little house just next to Jerry Sprunger on Hendrick Street.
Mhm.
And there's been a trailer there for the past, 6 months? So would this be something also in this category?
I think,
Is that in a driveway or on the street?
That's in the
No,
driveway.
that's beside the house.
It's in the driveway though, not on the street.
Mhm.
Yeah, anyway,
yeah. So
but I think you're right.
I'm not, wait a second, I'm not debating you. I think there's room for improvement in our
Absolutely.
current ordinance.
Absolutely. Well,
But that's just Ron's opinion.
I'm just gonna throw out a thought, is that if you don't allow folks to park their campers, and I understand there are instances, and I've seen campers and RVs in horrible shape that you could consider an eyesore, that should be moved someplace else. But in my opinion, if you force me or members of my family who have campers to not park on the street, A, you're forcing us to spend money on a storage unit, which isn't fair to anybody. B, the part of the ordinance that says to interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property, that's what you're doing to that's what you're doing to the citizens, basically. I don't mean that disrespectfully at all, but I just think, like you said, we need to look at the big picture.
But if you can afford these items,
That's not necessarily so,
Not
John.
necessarily.
Not necessarily so.
If I can kind of interject my opinion,
Mhm.
I think I would like to see it looked at as the condition that you keep your camper, your motorhome. And if it is junk and not well maintained,
Mhm.
not roadworthy,
Mhm.
and then I could see where you would want to limit that on personal property or in the street.
Mhm.
But these vehicles are made just like cars. They have to have brake lights, tail lights, reflectors, license plates, and they're for road and they're roadworthy.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think it comes down to personal opinions of individuals that like to kind of interject their thoughts in it rather than, I know where you park your camper.
Mhm.
It doesn't interfere with traffic,
Mhm.
you know. It doesn't interfere with not being able to see down the street.
Mhm.
It's parked legally, you're legally plated, insured. And, in my opinion, that should be allowed.
and who decides that?
Well, ultimately, it's the
Yeah.
council.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I would like to throw one thing out. If you drive through our community, you will see job site dumpsters and porta-johns at the job sites all over town, especially spring, summer, fall, which are far more of an eyesore than a camper in good shape like Tim described. But we don't address that. We don't regulate that because we understand why they're there. And I just think we should give the same consideration to people who own campers. So, campers, RVs, things like that. And if there is a committee I would appreciate, unless it's this committee as a whole, I would appreciate being in on that discussion about how to revise that. And I've looked at Decatur. I know that Decatur doesn't allow, and I know that Portland doesn't allow. But like my mom said, if everybody jumps off a bridge, that doesn't mean you should either. So just a thought there. But I appreciate, I've read through the entire ordinance, and when things are a matter of health and safety, I completely understand that. But I think, like Ron said, we need to revisit, look at the big picture, and we're here to serve the citizens of the community, so we need to look at it in that vein. So, and I have one more thing before I head off to work now, and I just need clarification. And I looked at the state code about access to public records. And so, Dave, am I correct that the complaints that are filed are public record?
They would be.
They would be.
Yeah.
So the public would have the right to request that complaint form without any redactions?
I believe so.
Okay. And how would someone go about doing that in their community?
They have to come and ask at the clerk's.
And ask Cal? Okay. Does it have to be in writing?
How do we have that? We have a policy.
I mean, like when someone requested
It'd
information,
be the
we have them fill out that form.
We have a form.
So there's a specific
There's a
form?
form. Yeah.
Okay. So I would like a form because
And then
Let's-
I think we have it where if we make copies, we charge if,
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
or they can look at them and take.
I understand that, yeah. Okay. So less people think city council members are exempt from the nuisance ordinance. Our address was in the paper, and I would like a copy of that complaint that was filed.
Okay.
So I'd like to get a form. Can you just email me the form?
I can.
Okay? And I just request a copy of that, so. Well, thank you very much for your time and consideration. I appreciate all that you do and your input. I'm going to work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly, real quick, are you talking about just campers on streets or on personal property?
The ordinance just is addressing streets, correct?
Mhm.
It addresses we can't have campers on our own personal property? Really?
It has to do with sight lines.
With sidelines?
Sight lines.
Okay, so if it's not obstructing the view of traffic,
No, doesn't have anything to do with traffic. I think the idea is, this is how I'm assuming most municipalities look at it. When you are in a residential area, you expect to see a house across the street or down the street, but you don't expect those sight lines to be blocked by campers or RVs. I think that's what, and if you have, and of course, this, in the past, this probably wasn't that much of an issue when just a few people had it, but you have 100 of them in town. That changes the sight lines in town.
and again, I'll go back to the job site dumpsters, city dumpsters, porta johns, so.
And I think those, I can't speak for the city, but I'm assuming those are seen more as temporary,
Yes.
but some of them are there for a long time.
Mhm.
And maybe there need to be restrictions on how long job site trailers can be and where they can be.
Now, don't get me in trouble with all the contractors.
I know there was one on the street outside of my house for quite some time.
Mhm.
And if I would had a neighbor that would have complained, that would have been moved onto my property at a minimum. But the question is whether there needs to be, maybe the contractor should have been using my garage instead of, I don't know.
Oh, no, but they don't want to use your garage.
I know that. Just saying.
If you read the nuisance ordinance where campers and RVs are concerned, there's two different places where they come up. One of it's on public right of ways,
Mhm,
and then the other is on public property.
mhm.
Private property, yeah. And the private property section is the section I'm saying needs to be revisited because it lumps a whole bunch of things into one paragraph.
Mhm.
RVs.
I think it was anything that was movable.
Yeah,
thing.
trailers, storage units, You know, and not all of those are the same to me. And when we revisit the ordinance for storage units and things like that,
Mhm.
we could add construction, you know, trailers or whatever.
I would just ask that you keep in mind as you're doing this, and I know that you do by and large, but you and I and the mayor and Cal were elected to serve the citizens of our community. So I think there's a fine line between serving the citizens and other folks' opinions. I just think we have to be careful.
And I
Well,
agree
which
with you,
citizens?
Kelly. Yeah, I agree
That's
with
the
you.
question,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
But we
so-
don't, but by and large, it's not all the citizens. It's, John said people who buy campers can afford a storage, they
No,
cannot.
I raised the question.
Okay, and I will just tell you, because I work with people in low income,
I know.
that they are thrilled when they can afford to buy a camper. But to
Sure.
force them to also pay for a storage unit when, you know, making ends meet is difficult, I struggle with that a lot, so.
and Kelly, look at it this way, the nuisance ordinance is in place to protect individuals as far as their well-being and their style of life against other things that they may not appreciate.
I understand that, Ron.
So it's on both sides.
It's on both sides. There's just a fine line. And I just would like us to give the same consideration as we do for the folks who have building projects going on their property. So, yeah. Okay. Now, whoops,
And that line is getting thinner.
and I'm not sure that's right.
I know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
Sally.
have a good day.
Okay, so our next item on the agenda is the property review.
That's a good example on Baltimore Street, isn't it?
So, first one on the agenda or on the property review list is the 466 Baltimore property. And we had given them a deadline of April 1st, which is still intact. And there are two photos there, one from 12/15, one from 2/17. So,
And I will make a point, I had a reason to talk to the homeowner about something else the other day. And we did talk about the April 1st date. He's still fully aware of the April 1st date of what he committed to as far as having his, the fence back up in place and the debris dealt with. So he's aware.
You know, it looks like a parking lot when you get that close up at the bottom. You know, there's is that a vehicle there that's beside the boat and trash along the fence? You know,
Beside the boat is a impromptu storage unit that was built. And I'm hopeful because of the fence going about right where that's at, that won't be there anymore. The fence will be on the left side of that storage unit, and the boat will be the only thing that's still outside the fence. Isn't that what you remember, Shannon?
what's the black item to the right of the boat? The black.
It's a impromptu storage
Okay,
unit.
tarp.
a
temporary, it's a
boat
tarp.
Okay,
that he built.
okay.
Honestly, it's similar to what we'll be talking about in a little bit as far as Westlick Strasse. It's a similar improvised storage unit.
So we'll continue to monitor this property, with the April 1st deadline in mind.
So we meet in March, again, this body. So at this point in March, it'll either be addressed or it'll still be on the to be completed by April 1st
And does it surprise you that you see at the bottom of that picture, that blue item and the big, whatever on the right? It's just part of the whole picture, isn't it?
To me, it looks like trash
It's
bins.
trash cans.
Trash cans.
It's trash pickup.
Those, yesterday they did his trash, so when she took pictures, they probably already did it and it fell over. Cause they're empty.
So you're thinking that might be gone by now?
I don't know, but I know they were empty yesterday.
Okay.
All right, the next one is 753 North Jefferson Street. And I don't know that much has been done because of the weather and the snow, but it just melted yesterday. So this one also has a April 1st deadline to clean up.
I would say again, my bigger concern from than the nuisance is whether this should be an unsafe building under our unsafe building ordinance. It's uninhabitable the way it is. The question is when does the city want to pursue unsafe building? When you have windows boarded up and
Yeah,
I mean, that's the blight that we usually talk about with unsafe building.
I mean, he's got a building permit and he's doing work on the inside.
Okay, so I mean, as long as that's happening.
Right, I mean, I've been down there for 2 inspections. So
Okay.
I mean, it's
I didn't
not
know
like
that.
it's fast progress by any means.
I didn't know that,
He's
but I
doing it
mean,
by
it's
himself.
looked like this for quite some time. That pictures the definition of an unsafe building.
That's what got him to get the permit.
Does our building permits expire?
After 18 months, I'd have to look and see when we issued it.
okay. Okay, then the next property is the 306 Windridge Trail complaint. And in your packet, there's a copy of the letters that were sent out to the homeowners at 306 Windridge Trail.
Could I ask a quick question on the letters? How were these letters delivered?
By certified mail?
Okay, so we have records that they received on such and such a date. So, okay.
Yeah, that would drop you on the.
So did we receive information from him regarding plating the Ford F-150?
He has not.
He is not.
No.
So in the letter, we talked about the F-150, saying that it needed to be legally plated, because if not, it's considered a junk vehicle, right?
Right.
Yeah, as far as the other items, the 2 vehicles that we talked about before, we had given them until April the 1st, like some of the others, to either get them removed, scrapped, whatever. So as far as this morning's meeting, I think the F-150 not being plated is the main issue, right? Because we gave until April the 1st on the other things.
Right.
So after April 1, and nothing is done, what's our next move?
And let's hold on that, John, if we could. On the F-150, we've sent complaints out to other citizens around town about plating their vehicles and what the ordinance states. And everyone to this point has been responsive to those requests. I know of at least 3 or 4 that we did over the last year and a half. So at this point, I feel obligated to those others that we asked to do the right thing, that we need to have these individuals do the right thing. And if they need to be fined to get them to proceed, I guess I'm okay with that. We've been compassionate, we've been gracious, we've given them several months to address this. And maybe the only way that they're gonna address it is to receive that first ticket. So that's my opinion on that. And the letter that we sent them on January the 29th, and we told them they had 10 days to show proof of the tags to the city building, and they haven't yet, right?
He did come in to pay his water bill last month and asked to speak to the mayor, but we were in a meeting, so he wasn't able to talk to him, but he never made an effort to reach back out.
And we're past 10 days.
Yeah. Did you just check it, Tim?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's still on the street?
And no license.
Expired.
How much time do we give these people?
Well, we gave him 10 business days.
Well,
I'll go visit him.
and what happens after that? Is there money involved? Is there something?
I
that
think we
makes
I'll go
give them
visit
the
him.
ticket then.
Yeah, it says that they'll be fined $100.
I guess the question is it $100 every day?
I
Is-
know that's what the ordinance says. I don't know that that's.
It's $100 per ticket. You can decide when to
Yeah.
give the ticket.
Okay.
I'm okay issuing the first ticket. Not a daily ticket.
But we don't meet for a month, so if what do we do after he issues the first, are we just issuing one ticket and then discussing it at the next meeting? Or where do we go from there?
I had a thought on that, and I'll just throw it out. I don't wanna do daily, but one, and then if there's not any response, 7 days later, number 2. 7 days later, number 3. By the time we meet, he will have received 2 or 3 or 4 tickets.
That sounds reasonable, Ron.
Do we need to let him know, Dave, that it'll be weekly if it's not resolved? No, we can just,
Could be daily.
okay.
We're
Yes,
we're being
that's-
gracious, the
Could be
ordinance says
daily.
daily.
Yeah.
So, do I need to make a motion to that extent?
I think that's,
Okay, I would make a motion, even though I hate to do it. I feel like we're at a place where we need to do something, that we issue a initial ticket to the individuals at 306 Windward Trail. And if the vehicle's not plated, a ticket every 7 days thereafter. So that's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by John. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And,
Now, I do have another question with the pictures,
okay,
now that we've dealt with that. The Ford Explorer that is parked there, that has the car jack under it with the tire removed, to me, that's sort of a safety issue. How long do we feel that that's acceptable?
Well, that was one of the neighbors' initial complaints, because there was little kids riding their bicycles down the street, and that was what they were worried about. So it's been an ongoing issue with them working on vehicles in the middle of the street.
So Dave, where would that be dealt with? Is that a nuisance ordinance issue, or is that more Board of Public Works and Safety issue.
No, I think it's a nuisance, it's plated, right? But it's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
I think since it's not drivable, obviously.
that's where I was
It
going
falls
to go.
under junk vehicle, I think.
the tire.
Yeah, it talks about, vehicles without engines and things like that, those are just a matter of example. But I would say it would be under the junk vehicle.
And I think they need a letter on that as a junk vehicle, but no fine associated at this point. Because we're just really talking about that for the first time here at this meeting. So I would make a motion that we send them
Says or otherwise, sorry, go ahead. It says or otherwise partially dismantled or inoperable and left on public premises. There you go.
So I'd make a motion that we send them a letter on the Ford Explorer noting it as a junk vehicle, giving them 10 days to address it like we did the last letter we sent.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to send the junk letter 2306 Windridge Trail. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
That's a junk vehicle.
Yeah, junkie.
So I guess back to what we talked about on the original issue. So Chief Kaler's going to go and talk to them from a signage perspective. Do we also need to add that information in the letter we're sending them on junk vehicles? Or does the ticket really address?
I think that's the ticket. That's the
Yeah,
citation.
ticket.
So in the letter, then we just talk specifically about the Ford Explorer. Okay. And I think in the letter we sent to them, just like we did here, we should again tell them April 1st. I'd send them the same
Reminder.
pictures.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on, the next property is 686 Westlick Strasse, which had shown some improvement early on. I'm not sure that there's been much since, but with the weather the way it was, I can see where that would have been an issue. But you have something to say about the tarp or whatever, Ron, on that, or?
I have not talked to the homeowner. I would, if we have any contact information, I would mind getting that from Kelly or Calla. I think we do have an email from them that we were forwarded back in December. I mean, I can email her, but I'd almost rather talk with the homeowner and ask what their plans are now as the weather gets better. Mayor, have we had any more complaints or feedback from neighbors?
Mhm.
Because it started as a neighbor
Right,
complaint.
yeah, they haven't heard anything. I mean, I heard the complaint, and then after she made an effort to get stuff cleaned up that was further back in the driveway or further out in the driveway, and in the area of where this is sitting is smaller than what it was before. You know, the comment from the neighbors were that she was doing a pretty good job at that point in time. And they seemed to be somewhat satisfied that she was making progress. But then it got really, really cold and snow all over it. So I'm guessing they're probably giving her the benefit of the doubt from that situation, but I haven't heard anything from anybody out there.
I think we should keep it on our watch list as the weather gets better.
Right.
Hopefully we'll see progress.
Okay. All right, 166 Bryan Street. So we had a complaint about the car in the driveway not being plated and properly taken care of, and we sent a junk vehicle letter to them on January 28th. And is it plated now, Tim? Okay. So it's been plated. And she sent back an email saying that she does not think it's a junk car. It's currently plated and being properly taken care of. So she says, I hope this addresses the concerns mentioned in the notice.
I know we had talked about someone living in that camper, and I just know I didn't notice it before, but there is a pop out on the side of it out, and we never heard back if someone had moved out of it. Do we need to address that? I mean, you can see in the picture that pop out is out on the side.
I would suggest someone make a contact and find out what the latest is.
I would hope
So
it's
we-
helpful to know somebody was one in it, but.
So we did send them a letter specifically stating that can't have.
It was a phone call, yeah, that we had talked to them, and they had addressed that somebody was living there, and we had advised them that that was not allowed. And, he had said he was gonna ask them to move out. But
Do we make
as
a
far as following
contact?
up, I'm not sure.
I'd be okay sending a letter to the landlord and the property owners. You know, as the weather's gonna start getting better, to say, as a reminder, you know, you're not to have people living in your campers. It doesn't have to be more than a few sentences, but would that come from this body, Dave, or
I don't think so.
would that come from the?
Would a phone call also be a way of finding out what's going on?
Can we just reply back to her in email?
Yeah, it's really just asking if they're still there. If they are, then we need to send a letter. Like we did.
So was the
somebody
phone
else.
call to the
I had
renter
talked,
before?
yes, it was a gentleman that lived in that home.
Okay. So we could reply back to the email that she sent regarding the junk vehicle and ask if
I mean,
someone is living there in the camper, or if they've been, you know, to see where that status is.
I can do that.
you reply to the email and say that this was discussed at the nuisance review board, and thank you for addressing the junk vehicle situation, and in addition to that, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Is that a motion, Ron?
Yes, that's.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, both same sign. All right. Moving on is 465 Sprunger Street. Front yard remains clear. Appears that the tree in the backyard was taken down to install a privacy fence once the weather permits. And I'm assuming that the fence is going to go on the east side of the tree stump that's there, or is it actually gonna go clear out there by that pole?
And there's, for a fence, there's a building permits needed, or
Not yet.
It does look really bad. There's a lot of junk right there. In the car port and whatnot.
I think it got situated to a different location.
Yeah,
Still scrapping going on there.
Yeah,
yeah, a
There
lot.
is.
I think we need to continue to monitor the property. Especially as the weather turns better.
yeah. Okay. There is a copy of the letter that was sent to the residents at 517 East Main Street in English and in Spanish, requesting them to be here at our meeting and schedule and have the builder schedule an appointment with Shannon. Has that been done, Shannon? Have you had an appointment with anybody at that address?
No.
Okay.
And again, same question, how was this letter delivered, certified mail?
Yes,
And we have record that they received it.
yeah. Now the pictures were not sent with the letter. They were just taken yesterday. I felt like he has cleaned up a lot of the backyard compared to when we originally first started. But
Are we talking about the residence catty corner from Amsterd's construction?
yes,
I haven't seen much improvement. I've been by there, and at this point, we have given them an open view about a garage. Do we want to consider the date be set something that would urge them, if nothing is done at the end of August, do we sit here and talk about it? And it's an eyesore. It's one of the worst ones in town. Go through the alley sometime.
no, I didn't feel like it was that bad yesterday when I drove through there. Personally. There's a lot of other worse ones around the city.
If this residence would be beside your home, any reaction?
I don't see a lot in the yard, a lot of debris or anything like that. I feel like a lot of it's enclosed. So it wouldn't bother me as bad as seeing some of the other properties around town, per se. Like, to me, I would be more offended by the way that the house on Spurgeon Street looks when you drive down the alley. To see all the debris and junk mowers and whatnot laying out there in the car park.
You've taken a good look at the east side of the home?
No, I just drove down the alley and from behind.
Well, they have storage sheds on the east,
Yeah,
which,
How many?
yeah, but I mean,
the east side of the house is
So
still the
there's
same.
nothing else on the yard laying around? Take another look, Ron.
The east side of the house hasn't changed much, John. That hasn't changed,
Well, it's been a mess.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Do we
I was
leave-
aware of the
do we-
storage
Do we
buildings.
leave it open? We just keep talking about it?
no,
They
I
don't
guess
show up at meetings?
my suggestion was gonna be, since we invited them to this meeting and they didn't attend, that we send them the same letter stating to attend the March meeting. And if they're not gonna be able to attend the March meeting, then they need to contact someone. You make it Shannon, as far as the building.
I think that's been, Shannon, you kind of been the contact with them.
He's the one that's supposed to be seen for an appointment.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had,
I mean, the one time he was here, he said he would get it, he'd come in for a building permit and you told him he needs to get a drawing from his builder, which you've yet to see a drawing. So, how serious is he about building a building? I don't know how serious he is. He's not gonna have his builder come in with at least a drawing for Shannon to look at.
So I think the letter can be pretty much the same, just changing the date to the March Nuisance Review Board meeting and state if you cannot attend this meeting, you have to contact our building planner ahead of time to discuss about what your plans are.
yeah, and I honestly, I think you have Tim deliver it instead of certified, because certified mail, it could be one of the kids get it, they get it, and the parents might read it, might not, whatever, we don't know. But a police officer shows up,
And it might be one of 5 certified mails that they got that week, you know?
Yeah.
it seems a little more serious, but every time he's been here, he's been cooperative. Now, don't get me wrong, they showed up for their BZA hearing, everything. They seem to do what we ask them to do, but it's getting them to the point. But I also know they do not do anything if they don't have the cash on hand. And I know when he was not here, the one time we asked him to come, it was because he went back to Mexico to pay for his mom's surgery she was having, because they sent his daughter and wife.
Hmm.
If he ran out of money because of that, that's why the building didn't go up. I can't really frown on that, but I'm just saying, I know that is how they look at it, that if they don't have the money for it, they ain't doing it, you know? But we just need to have a plan. Tell us when this is happening. Give me a drawing. We gave you a variance so that you get closer than you were supposed to. Things like that. That's one thing we've talked about in our zoning is we need to say, if you get a variance, the variance is only good for this long. And if you don't act on it, you gotta come and ask for another variance. You know what I mean? Because that was
2 years ago, 4 years ago.
4 years ago that we gave that variance.
Your suggestion to have the chief deliver the letter, I think is a good one.
You know, I mean, it just might, and I would do it as soon as possible. That way they've got a month to prepare to get back here. And maybe it makes him reach out to me and say, I've got the drawing. Okay, that's great. And if that happens, we can email the board back and say, we got the drawing, this is where we're at.
Do we need to add that if we don't hear that there could be action taken? Since he has not, it would be the second letter he has not done anything with.
I think that's another good suggestion.
We just need,
And we can use
we
the
need
word
some-
may, but
we just need some form of response. We need an open communication. It's telling us what your plans are, because we need to be able to update this board.
And to that
Yeah.
point, taking it further as we develop this plan, I think the letter being sent with the next meeting and the verbiage added to it to contact, if you're not gonna be able to be here, contact Shannon, and then having chief deliver it, I think is another great step. But then adding in after that, you know, if you're not here and you don't get a hold of Shannon, you know, we may be caused to start fining you $100 per day going forward. And like you say, may is a good term. It catches their attention. And they have been responsive. I'm not trying to pick on them, but the weather's gonna get better. It's a perfect time to build something. So what are your plans for building this building this summer as you've been telling us you're going to do?
For 4 years.
So.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, John, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I don't believe we had any new properties. I'm not aware of anything.
Greg,
Yeah,
you had mentioned that you were gonna be seeking information from area towns on their ordinances. Have you received any information?
I have Decatur's ordinance, or nuisance ordinance. I reached out, I sent an email to the Bluffton mayor requesting a copy of theirs, and I haven't heard back from him. And I have a 1-page document from Portland that addresses campers and that type of thing. So I'll see the Bluffton mayor today, and I'll mention to it.
Mayor, they use the Wells County, is my understanding.
Huh?
They use Wells County's ordinances when it comes to the nuisance
Oh, do they?
versus a Bluffton city.
Okay, maybe that's why he didn't send me. He didn't have anything.
I'll forward you what Reed had sent me.
Okay, so we have one from Wells County, so. Any board comments?
I think back to what Kelly mentioned and what we discussed earlier and what we discussed at the last meeting, and in line with what John's asking about is, I think as we gather the information from the other communities, that we do take a look at that. As far as updating the ordinance, that's city council responsibility. It's not specifically this body's responsibility. I think at some point we need to have a subcommittee or something of city council representatives to start going through what we're getting from these other communities and see if there is something that we think is better or updates we could make. And then I think probably what we would do at some point in time is take some of those updates initially to city council, get city council to start considering, because we're the ones elected to put those ordinances in place. But what I would recommend before anything is voted on and made firm and public, that a draft of what we're proposing come back to this committee for committee review. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
So there's work going on, John. It's not this board's job to work on the ordinance update. Providing input to the ordinance, definitely. Enforcement of the ordinance, definitely.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ron, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Interesting.